Hello everyone, my name is Rinna. So today in this video we are going to discuss about Chapter 1 of Class 8 Science, and this is your lecture number first. Chapter 1 is been titled as Crop Production and Management. As the name itself suggests, crop production and management, which means what are we going to learn in this whole chapter is all about what is crop, how the crop has been produced, what are the practices involved in crop production, and then crop management. So before we jump towards our further discussion, let's rewind our previous knowledge that how these crops have been produced and the process of production of crops. So the crops are produced through the process of agriculture. So the definition goes here is like the practice of growing plants and rearing animals for food, fiber and other useful products is known as agriculture. Now what is crop? Plants grown and cultivated on large scale on the same field for human consumption or use is known as crops. For example, crop of wheat. You can take example of any crop here. I have taken example of wheat. So crop of wheat, which means that crop grown on that particular field is of one type, that is wheat. So plants grown and cultivated on large scale on the same field of same kind is known as crop. Now further we'll discuss about classification of crops. Now there are two type of crops. One is kharif crop and other one is rabi crops. So crops planted in June and harvested in October is known as kharif crops. These crops are sown in rainy season, so they are also known as rainy season crops. For example, paddy, maize, cotton, sugarcane, etc. These are the example of kharif crops. Now we'll further discuss about rabi crops. So crops planted in November and harvested during April of the succeeding year is known as rabi crops. Now rabi crops are also known as winter crops, for example wheat. Crop cycle. So I have here mentioned a crop cycle so that it would be very easy for you guys to remember the classification of kharif crop and rabi crops. So rainy season in India starts from June to September, which is marked as kharif crop here. Winter season in India starts from October to March, which has been marked as rabi crop here. So it is now very easy for you guys to classify which are kharif and which are rabi crops. So now jumping towards crop production. So there are few steps involved in it. So basic agriculture practices for crop productions are stepwise here. First is preparation of soil, then sowing, then adding manure and fertilizers to the soil, then irrigation, protection from weeds, harvesting and storage. These processes must be carried out in a very careful manner so that crops can give a high yield, right? So now we'll discuss the whole steps in a detailed manner. So first one is preparation of soil. So preparation of soil is very important for the proper growth of plant, right? It is the first step before growing a crop. So one of the most important tasks in agriculture practices is to turn the soil and loosen it. Now the question arises, why to loosen the soil? So because loose soil provides proper aeration to the roots, which means roots could even breathe. Even if they go deep into the soil, they won't be deprived of air, and that's why they would, and this way they could grow in a better way. Okay, so in the process of preparation of soil must be loosened first. It also helps in the growth of earthworms, which leads to vermicomposting, and microbes also have significant role on their own. For example, I would give bacteria, rhizobium, which helps in nitrogen fixation, which also helps in further better production of crops. Now further preparation of soil also helps in improving fertility of soil, okay, which also is very important criteria for the better production of crops. Now further we'll discuss tilling. The process of loosening and turning the soil is called tilling or plowing. Now plowing is done using a plow. In traditional times, wooden plows were used, right? Nowadays, plowing is done using tractors or iron plows are used, which are actually very less time consuming if we compare it to the traditional ways. Now the second step is sowing. So what generally sowing means is planting of seeds. It is most important part of good crop production. Okay. So for that, before sowing, seeds are selected. Farmer needs to make sure that seed should be clean, healthy, and should be of good quality, so that it could give a high yield or a better production of crops. For that, we need to be very careful while selecting of seeds. So traditionally, how the sowing used to occur? So traditionally, farmer used to scatter seeds manually, but this method does not distribute seeds uniformly, right? This method was not helpful because with the help of hand you cannot distribute uniformly, right? You cannot distribute seeds uniformly. So nowadays sowing is done using a seed drill. So, sowing of seeds should be done at equal and appropriate distances. This gives space for developing roots to absorb water and nutrients from the soil. So, sowing must be done at appropriate and equal distances so that roots can develop and absorb water and nutrients from the soil itself. Now we need to make sure that seeds are sown at the right depth. Now why at the right depth? Because if they are sown at shallow depth, they must be damaged by birds, or if they are sown at a very long depth, or they are sown too deep, then they would be deprived of air. So it must be appropriate. It must be sown at an appropriate depth. Okay. So moving towards the third step, which is adding manure and fertilizers to the soil. So we all needs nutrients to live. We all living beings needs nutrients to live. As plants are also autotrophic in nature. So I hope you guys know what is the difference between autotrophic and heterotrophic. Autotrophic are those who prepare their food on their own, like plants with the process of photosynthesis, and heterotrophic are us who are dependent on others for their food. Okay, so coming back to this, the substance which are added to the soil in the form of nutrients for healthy growth of plants, crops, are known as manures and fertilizers. So difference between manures and fertilizers are: manures are natural organic substance obtained by animal or plant waste like cow dung, vegetable matter, etc. So this is naturally occurring. Okay, so this can be made naturally. But fertilizers are man-made, and they are chemical substances which are rich in particular nutrients. So further differences are: manure can be prepared in field, but fertilizers cannot prepare in field. They are prepared in factories. Manures provides a lot of humus to the soil, but fertilizer that does not provide humus to the soil. When it comes to manure are not nutrient specific, but fertilizers are nutrient specific, like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, etc. In spite of this whole differences, in spite of the advantages of fertilizers, still organic manure is considered better than fertilizers. Now why? Because it does not, while using fertilizers, if we use it in an excess way, it would make the soil alkaline in nature. Okay, and they are very expensive also. So organic manure is considered better than fertilizers. It enhances water retention capacity, which means water holding capacity. Roots could hold water in a very better way. and it also enhances fertility of the soil. Okay, it makes soil porous, due to which aeration or exchange of gases becomes very easy. So while using manure, it makes soil porous, and which would help roots to even breathe, and there would be a proper aeration process even. So further, manure even doesn't alter pH of the soil or pollute it. As I've already told you that excessive use of fertilizers could even lead to alkaline nature of the soil. Okay, so it is again better in the way of fertilizers. As we compare to fertilizers, manures are better. It also helps in increasing number of useful bacteria, which also helps in restoring fertility of the soil. So again, using manure is much a better way in spite of using fertilizers. So there are a few natural methods to improve soil nutrients. So first in that is leaving the soil agricultural land fallow. Now what does this means? After a season, the land is left fallow. That means no crops have been grown on that particular land and it is left fallow. Now this provides sufficient time to restore nutrients and fertility of the soil. Now how this can happen? Through the process of decomposition with the help of bacteria. Okay, with the help of bacteria, soil can restore nutrients and fertility of its own, right? So second in this row is mixed cropping. Through the process of mixed cropping also, soil can improve in its nutrients. Like mixed cropping, cultivation of two different crops in the same field. So what we have to do is, cultivation will occur of two different crops in the same field. One would be main crop and one would be legume crop. Now legume crop increases land fertility. Okay, legume crop will increase land fertility, and what else, it would help also in the reducing the requirement of chemical fertilizers. So legume crop will also increase the fertility of soil, as well as it will also reduce the requirement of chemical fertilizers, right? So third in the row is crop rotation, through which soil nutrient can be restored. So crop rotation includes crop with two different needs are grown one after other. In this, like in spite of mixed cropping, crop rotation is different. Unlike of mixed cropping, crop rotation is different in their ways, as in mixed cropping, two crops are cultivated at the same time. Here, two different crops are being cultivated one after another, okay, in the same field. So the second crop is sowed after the harvest of first crop. Okay, after the harvest of first crop, second crop is been sowed. Now for example, paddy uses most of the nitrogen. Okay, as an alternate crop, we can use peas, soybeans here. Okay, so legume crop here are as peas and soybeans. Now these helps in restoring usable nitrogen compounds from the atmosphere itself. Now the legume crop, which are peas and soybeans, have nodules in their roots, okay, which would convert the natural nitrogen present in the atmosphere into usable nitrogen compound. Okay, and further it will restore the nitrogen compounds in the soil itself. So yes, this is all about the first lecture of today. So we would continue this chapter in lecture number 2, and the topics which are we gonna covered in lecture number 2 are irrigation, weeding and pest control, harvesting and storage. So this chapter is to be continued in our lecture number 2. Thank you. Till then, stay home, stay safe, and learn from home. Thank you so much.